So, the first major update for Payday 3 has released, version 1.0.2. By first major update, I don't mean actual 1.0.1, I mean the actual first update that adds more content rather than fixing existing content, rather than taking so long to release and giving little to nothing to the community, other than promises to do better in the future. And this future is here. We've gotten a huge dump of content, and I don't mean dump as in bad, I mean a lot of it. We've gotten great content, content, but no bad content in this update. However, there is something I noticed about this update that I want to get out of the way right away. It almost seemed like some of this content is mistimed, maybe unintentionally or intentionally. It feels like some of these things either were meant to be here at launch, were meant to be here before this update came out, and some feel like they were meant to be here later. Should we have expected legacy heists this quickly? Maybe not, but we got them, and they're pretty good, I have to say. I have to say they probably picked some of the best legacy heists to pick from to bring into Payday 3 and make them work pretty well. Now, should we see more legacy heists, especially for as free DLC and never as paid? Let's see. Now, I want to go back to what I said just before this, and that was, what do I mean by mistimed content and some content that should have been here? Well, firstly, when it comes to content that should have been here at launch, I feel like the transporter line and also their first-person animations were probably meant to be there at launch. It simply just seems like they just were planned, but maybe not finished. Maybe they simply had future endeavors. But however, you can kind of see that they were not meant to release either at this time, because Murky Station, or whatever you want to call it, Turbid Station now, doesn't have the burning of the gates animations. There's no animations for that. It's just, I guess you could say, launch Payday 3 idle animation. So it's kind of weird. However, I will say the first-person animations are a great addition, and I welcome them all the same. And also, the new transporter skill line really shakes up the meta. It makes you wonder, is armor still gonna stay the meta? And the answer is yes. When you can carry 2 armor bags with the cost of 2 charges for each, it really helps with the new economy, especially with the nerf to one of the most powerful armor perks, going from simply giving you 2 armor slots and giving you 1 and refilling your current one. Now, when I say mistimed content as it was meant to come in before this update, I mean the new mask and the new weapon. They're clearly Halloween themed. One having a werewolf and one being like a mummy is pretty Halloween themed, but I do think it's great that they're reasonably priced. However, I do think maybe Starbreeze planned on making these limited edition or limited time skins that you could only get during a certain amount of time. Now, we don't know if that's the case still. For all we know, tomorrow we might wake up and it might be gone, and they just say, oh, well, you should have gotten it when it was out. Or maybe they're staying. That's the only bit of content I want to talk about that's in a negative light. The rest is fantastic. We got 2 technically brand new heists, and I'm still inclined to call them brand new heists because they play pretty differently. Now, I do think Murky Station doesn't transfer as well into Payday 3 as, of course, Cook-Off does. I'm a personally big enjoyer of Cook-Off. I love endless heists. However, in Payday 3, Cook-Off isn't a endless heist. But is that inherently a problem? I'm inclined to say no. I do personally feel that it being an endless heist would have gone against the design philosophy of Payday 3. Endless heists work in Payday 2, but in Payday 3, not quite the same. Now, to be fair, it's really difficult to do an endless heist or do like a shit ton of bags in Payday 2, but I think it's almost equally as difficult to do an overkill 19 bags, especially since everything past the 10th bag cooked will be an endless wave of constant killing. Now, something I do want to say that I'm not sure if there's anything to do with the update, but I've recently been seeing it. I don't know if any of you have, but I've noticed something pretty interesting about public matches. I've had a lot of cheaters. Like, the kind of cheaters that sit somewhere and just shoot walls. I wasn't recording at the time, but I just had a guy who was just constantly shouting special enemy names while doing cook-off, and I was wondering, is this guy bugged or something? I go upstairs, he's shooting at a wall, and everything is dying. And that was the first time, I think it's like my 3rd run or something like that, and it was the first time I got all 19 bags. And I just didn't feel as accomplished, but that's just more of a me thing as my experience with it, and not quite the actual quality of it. So what exactly is different between these legacy heists and their original incarnations? Well, let me tell you, the first one, which is of course Cook-Off, is the more important one if you ask me, and that is, it has obviously been swapped from an endless to a limited heist. However, that does not quite damage the, I guess you could say, quality of it. The design of the heist, when it comes to structurally and I guess you can say overall designed, has been changed too. There are, of course, still 3 floors to the house that you cook in, but the floors have been revamped in their own ways. The lower floor is virtually the same, while the upper floor is very different. I guess you could say more under construction, and then downstairs is completely different. While in Payday 2, it was just a simple small room with some ingredients, but you barely went down there. Downstairs is an entirely new cooking location, and also a little room to go into the garage, which is completely new in Payday 3. Virtually everything else, except for, of course, scaffolding on the side, and also the removal of a balcony, pretty much everything else is the same in Payday 3. And I guess you could say it's a beautiful recreation of the original while trying to make it form well into Payday 3's design philosophy. And it does pretty well. Turbid Station, I believe, is still a good transfer from Payday 2 to Payday 3. It's just that some of the systems in Payday 3 kind of clash with it. Now, overall, it's still a great heist. However, I don't like the entire retina scanner because in Payday 2, that heist did not have a camera operator, which is kind of unheard of for modern Payday maps. As long as they have cameras, there's going to be a camera operator to kill. But in Payday 3, they don't add one either. So the cameras are always just a problem, especially for downstairs. So in the new version, you have to bring some schmuck to a camera, I believe, or not a camera, but to a retina scanner, have him scan his eye, obviously, it's a retina scanner, and open up a door. And that's required for one of the train cars. So you can't just not do it unless it's for a bonus amount of loot, not for the main loot. So if you get that for your main loot, in my personal opinion, I think you should just quit the fucking heist and hope you get better RNG on next run. But it's just overall a bad, I guess you could say, incarnation of the problem from Payday 2. Because in Payday 2, you could deal with that problem because you don't have the same challenge. You don't have the same objective, at least, or the same way of completing the objective that's required in Payday 3. There's nothing that was changed that would be a really good change, but because of the way that Payday 3 systems work, it just doesn't. They gave us access to go on top of the train cars, which is really cool, until you realize the train cars are considered secure areas, meaning if you sprint at any time on top of those train cars, guards will hear that and immediately go towards that, which obviously means you can't really sprint up there, which is what a lot of people thought you could do. So it kind of feels like, why would you just go on top of the train cars when you can go under and through them? What's the point of going on top of them? You're just wasting time. But overall, that's the only complaints I have about that heist, and honestly, like I said, Cook-Off, I don't really have any complaints with. I think it's actually probably one of my favorite, if not my favorite heist in Payday 3, oddly enough. I still think that pretty much all the Payday 3 Payday 3 heists are still really well designed and great. I just think the Cook-Off transferred incredibly well. I do think that the first-person animations add quite a lot, and I think they really make us feel like we're actually a part of the world. Seeing your character bag up loot, it's a small thing, but I think the small things are going to slowly but surely build up to something more. Do I think that this new, I guess you can say, update is going to revitalize my trust in Payday, or at least Starbreeze? I don't think this update alone does that. I was extremely high for Payday 3. I still am, technically, because I am really looking forward to the future. It's just that my expectations are a lot more tempered now. I really loved the transparency we had very early on with the game. They told us the systems, especially the challenge leveling system, which I was like, I'm not sure about that, and guess what? It came out, and they did. They're still sticking by their guns and still doing a challenge system, which I'm still on, but they have gone towards fixing it by adding actual completion objectives, stuff like completing the heist, completing it in stealth, completing it on a difficulty scaler, I believe, and then also all bags secured, which I think all bags versus no bags, it kind of entices players to only do one or the other, not really both. So for example, with something like Cook-Off, it's just overall a lot better financially, and I guess you could say level-wise, to just do all 19 and not do 18. But let's go back to where my entire trust thing stays. I don't think this update alone quite revitalizes my trust in Starbreeze, but it's a great step forward, and I can see myself in the not-so-distant future trusting Starbreeze again if they continue to keep up this content. And that's the big question. Was this content designed for future stuff? Like, was the first update or first DLC meant to drop with one of these legacy heists? and they just simply pulled it out of the DLC and plopped it in for free. And should we expect all legacy heists, if they do come in the future, which, let's be honest here, they're going to come out in the future, should we expect them to also be free updates, or should we expect them to be additions of DLCs? Now here I think is the best thing to do for Payday 3, release one legacy heist with every DLC, and make that legacy heist free for everyone, period. So when every DLC comes out, everyone gets something. And that something will usually keep most people satisfied. The DLC owners will get the DLC and the free map, and the non-DLC owners won't get the DLC map, but they will get the free one. And I think that's a good way to go about it. Who knows how they'll do that? I think this might just be a way that they could appease us by giving us 2 free heists. And for some people who are complaining that they're not brand new heists, they pretty much are. They play entirely different. They feel great. I think they've been nothing but improved in Payday 3. Even though I still think Turbid Station isn't as good as Cook-Off, but I still think it's still a vast improvement. While I think Murky Water Stations was a underrated stealth heist, I don't think it was anything to be like, it's my best stealth heist, I love it. It's pretty much only good, at least in my opinion, for infamy grinding, and that was pretty much all I really used it for, but not really for anything else. Something I also do have to say about the update is that they did keep the new preset weapon and mask very, very well priced. I like the entire only 10 C-stacks. Now, is this something we should expect in the future? Because almost nothing else in the preset shop is that cheap. Gloves are so insanely overpriced. Weapons are even more overpriced. And stuff like the Ziv Commando preset is still 100 fucking C-stacks. The Ziv Commando, I don't know statistically, but when I've used it, it is the worst weapon for me. I hate it. It eats ammo. It just does not deal damage enough, and it doesn't have it has a high fire rate, but not very well ammo economy. So really, it just feels like shit. But you're telling me that shitty preset, granted, it comes with a suppressor, but you really shouldn't be buying a preset for a suppressor. But it comes with a suppressor, but this actually decent design and decent performance-wise preset weapon is only 10? You're telling me that Ziv Commando preset is roughly 10 times better, in Starbase's opinion, than that MP7 skid or preset? I'm not sure, Matt. I'm not sure if I agree with you on that. But like I said, they might change in the future. We might see that going forward, they're going to be a new price range, but then the launch ones are going to stay the old price range, which, not sure how I feel about that, but I think it's a combination of, if they were to change the prices, how would they reimburse those who have bought them? And I think, of course, lowering the prices of C-stack related items is a good idea, because C-stacks are just kind of annoying to get, especially with their increasing value over time, and how simply it becomes too expensive to buy them, so you just wait till they go away, or use a glitch to get infinite of them. I do think C-stacks have their merits, and a lot of the things I have problems with Payday 3 as a whole have their merits. I think the challenge leveling system has its merits. I think the C-stacks has its merits. I do think the weird way of giving us favors also has its merits, making it so it's not based upon if you made enough money in that heist, or if you made enough money in general and be able to buy a favor in the next heist. It's more of playing other heists to unlock other heist favors, which would mean that inherently, if you want to have a really good playstyle with your favorite heist, you might need to run a heist you wouldn't traditionally run. And I think it's a great way to get people to diverse themselves in heists. However, when the limited heist number is so small, it's kind of hard to entice that. So I think once Starbreeze starts adding more and more heists, the system is going to get better and better inherently. They don't really need to change it. I do think displaying it was a great change. I do think displaying what you got is a great... I don't know why they thought they were going to launch without it. What's the point? You just simply grind until you eventually get it, but you have no idea if you have it. There's no inventory screen for it, but you do get a reward screen now, which I think is great, but I do think we need a inventory screen of them. But overall, I do think that Payday 3's first huge content update, and not simply fixing the launch kind of update, is a great step in the right direction. I do think if this is what we're going to see in the future for Payday 3, I do think that Payday 3 could succeed. I think its disastrous launch could be recovered from. It might pull a Cyberpunk. Who knows? Not many games manage to pull off a No Man's Sky / Cyberpunk. The only way it could be done is through hard work, transparency, and overall just honesty with your community. But that's one man's take. I have a very skewed opinion because I've been playing Payday 2 for years. I haven't really mentioned it on videos at all because primarily my channel has been Cyberpunk, Assassin's Creed, and Devil May Cry 5. So I don't really talk about this stuff much. I do have a video planned in the future for another game that I've never talked about on this channel at all, and that is Dead by Daylight. I have my own little opinions and stuff to talk about with that, so that is going to come a lot sooner than my last video, because unfortunately when I made my last video, I was burnt out already. So I literally got done recording the video, went to bed, woke up and said, okay, I'm not doing that again for a while. And here we are a month later, and I'm doing it again. So I'm going to say this now, that video is probably going to be next week. I doubt it's going to be another month wait, I guess. And so I want to say before we do end this video actually is that I do live stream. It's a pretty new Twitch channel. I used to kind of stream on a tiny bit bigger Twitch platform, but not really. I simply just rebranded kind of, and now I'm here. So check out the stream. I'll either be playing Dead by Daylight, I'll be playing Payday 3, or some other games with my friends. Who knows? I do primarily stream on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesdays, and Thursdays. Usually from 4 p.m. Central Time to roughly around 8 p.m. Central Time, but that's very inconsistent. I even streamed yesterday, which was, of course, technically Saturday. And I was streaming then at like 6 and only streamed for like an hour because I was having a splitting headache. But hey, go check out my Twitch if you want to see me live. That's it for the video. Bye.